Warm-up number 31 by now. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. So, bell curve. We need a mean. Am I doing that in green? What? But I like technology. Bam. Did it change? No? There you go. All right. All right, mean. What'd you get? Jordan, mean. 5.2. Hands have got 5.2. All right, looks about right. What'd you get for the standard deviation, Levi? 2.03. So therefore, this should be at 7.23 on the up, and on the down, we should be at 3 point 17. Is that correct? Woo-wee. And what does that say in regards to the norm and these numbers? Tell your neighbor. What would be a conclusion according to those numbers and that norm from 3.17 to 7.23? All right, pass on one, Levi. Lucas, what does that say about that data and the norm being from 3.17 to 7.23? 2 and what? 2 and 8 are out of the norm. That is correct. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you for sending that in. Copy the agenda, please. Warm-up number 31 done. We're in the middle of frequency tables. And tonight's home play, numbers 1 and 2 from 2.1 practice. In a little bit. Once again, today we have a minimum day. We're moving pretty quickly because we only got about 30 minutes for the session. So make sure you're keeping up with your notes. So once again, warm-up 31 done. Frequency tables. And once again, we are on session 2.1. So if you go to your textbook to 2.1, we're going to do practice problems numbers 1 and 2. But I'm going to show you those problems in a little bit. All right, we good? And copy this code in case you need it for the home play, in case you don't find your textbook. Write that down, YRKJQ, YRKJQ. Write that down, please, YRKJQ. YRKJQ. All right, we got this? Yes? Yes, Mr. Q. All right, so last night that was due at the end of the period was 3 and 4. Tonight is 1 and 2, and look at all those numbers now. Let's go. Let's go. Yeah, we got this. Oh, yeah, Aaron's looking at it. He's all, what in the world? Oh, yeah, Aaron, we got this. All right, there we go. I can represent frequency tables into graphs. I can represent frequency tables into graphs. Write that down, please, at the bottom left of your notes. I can represent frequency tables into graphs. Let me send that to your screen. There it is. So we started with frequency tables not too long ago, and we did some simple ones, and by now we know what they look like. We started with graphs already throughout the school year, but we got into specifically 3 different graphs this past session on Monday and Tuesday, which were the what? Histograms. What else? The polygons, and what else? The ogives, right? All right, so we're going to continue using those as we move along, but there's going to be more that we're going to add to those. Just a reminder, categorical versus quantitative. Tell your neighbor the difference from one to the other. Categorical versus the quantitative. And we're going to have Gio enlighten us. Categorical versus quantitative. All right, Gio, categorical. No numbers, very good. And quantitative? Numbers, very good. No numbers, categorical, and numbers. What's another word for categorical? Tell your neighbor. Starts with Q. Qualitative, yeah, we got that. All right, we know frequency tables, and like I said, we got into simple ones, look up. And I gave you guys, I remember when we started with this, a simple one in regards to the different baskets that I made. Here they are, simple data. And then I made a frequency table. But today we're going to get into frequency tables that now have a bunch of data, such as these kind. And they're called distributions. So from now on, whenever you hear the word distribution, they're talking about tables. From now on, whenever you hear the word distribution, they're talking about what? Tables. Whenever you hear the word distribution, they're talking about what? Tables. So whenever you hear that in a word problem in regards to construct a frequency distribution, that means you need to make a table. So there's different kinds. There's group tables, ungrouped, categorical, and also something called cumulative. Now look up. Grouped, we have over here on the class, look up, there's limits and boundaries. We've seen these with the graphs that we made. Is that correct? But look at ungrouped. There's only one number per class. You guys see that? That's why they're not grouped. It's only one number per group. And categorical is when they're talking about like blood type or something like that, or grades and such as that. So, with that said, example 1, copy that data, please, onto your notes, please. I'll give you time. Oh, yes, all of those. You need to have at least one example. So I'm going to send that to your screen. Copy that. I'll give you, what, 2 minutes? All right. So, all right, here we go. So, on your notes, you have example number 1. And if you notice, now we have a bunch of numbers here. Focus, please. Okay, I'll wait. And minimum data, I'm going to keep you guys after class. I'm just giving you a heads up. Okay, we ready? All right, here we go. So, record high temperatures in the U.S. There's the numbers. So, if that's the U.S., how many data shall we have? Tell your neighbor. How many data shall we have if they're representing the U.S.? 50, 50. That is correct. Okay. However, it's talking about using different classes. Now, yesterday, when I was going over the graphs and signaling to each row of the table, I said class. Is that correct? All right. So here's the first step whenever you get this data and to create a distribution. Tell your neighbor what distribution means. What does distribution mean? Table. That is correct. So on the side, I want you to write step 1 and write the letter R and tell your neighbor what that means. What does R stand for? The range. Range. That is correct. All right. Remind your neighbor how to find the range. How do we find the range? The greatest data minus the minus or the smallest data. So let's look at the data that we have. What is the greatest data that we have? Let's see, 120, this one. What is it? Let's see, 134, where is that at? Right here. All right, so 134 minus the smallest data. Okay, so I heard 100. Let's double check. Is there anything below 100? All right, minus 100. Bless you. So our range is 34. That's step one. Step two, we need to find something that we call the W, or in other words, the width of each class or each row. So the width, how do we find the width? Well, we take the range and divide it by the number of classes that they're asking for. So how many classes are they asking us to create? 7. Whoop. 7 classes. So that means we take the range is 34, divide by 7. Therefore, 34 divided by 7, that's 4. Subtract, that's 28. Add 6, add a decimal. Sits in there, is it 8 times? 8, that's 56. That's 4, and I'll stop right there. This is approximately 4.8. Now check this out. Look up, please. Whenever we find the width, pay attention to this part, we always have a whole number. Width is always a whole number. Is this a whole number? So anytime that we end up with a decimal, we always round up. Always. Doesn't matter if it's 4.1 or 4.9, we always round up. So our width is 5. How are we doing? All right, so tell your neighbor the first 2 steps, please, to make sure they got it. All right, from there we start building our distribution. So first we start with a little bar like so. And pay attention, because this is what you're going to be doing for home plate. And then we start with our first row. We call it class limit, or limits, class limits. All right, so here we go. Let me pause the music. Writing utensils down, look up to the screen, and then I'll have you copy right after. Here it goes, just to make sure we got it. The first row is called what? Class limits. Bless you. Where do I start, Mr. Q? Well, we always start with the smallest value. What's my smallest value? 100. So this is class number 1. Class number 1. Okay. But I need to go to the next class before I go to the upper limit. This is the lower limit. So watch. When we go from class to class, that's what we call what? The width. So if we started at 100 and the width is what? 5, tell your neighbor what would be the next values here. Yeah, 105. That is correct. If we go to the next class, what would be my next value once again if my width is 5? 110. What will be the next class? 115. The next one. 120. The next one. 25. How many do we need? 7. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We need one more. That's 130. Hold on before you copy. Look up. This is the lower limit. So 100 is the lower limit for the first class. Now I'm going to the upper limit. So look at the upper limit. If the second class starts at 105, what would be my upper limit for the first class? Yeah, 104. That is correct. If the second class, I need my upper limit, and the third class starts at 110, what would be going here? 109, all right? So fill that in, please. Fill it in. Copy that. Oh, yeah, we got this. 114, 119, 124, 129, 135. So the second class starts at 105, right? So what comes before 105? Yeah, so the first class goes from 100 to 104. What follows 104? 105. So if the third class starts at 110, what comes before 110? 109, and so on and so forth. All right, from 1 to 5, how comfortable are you with that so far? Where are we at? 5s, okay, some of you. All right, here goes the process one more time as you fill that in. Step 1, range. Step 2, width. Step 3, fill out your class limits. Next, I'm going to change colors just so that we can see the difference. Next column is class boundaries. Class boundaries. Class boundaries. All right? So, I'm not going to say anything. Your brain's going to do all the work. Writing utensils down. Look up to the screen. Let me show you how to fill in the class boundaries. Pay attention, please, or you're going to miss it. Let me do the next one to make sure you got it in your noodle. Tell your neighbor what's happening, please, so that they can see it. All right. Tell your neighbor how to find the boundaries, please. Tell your neighbor, please. I look like Aubrey's got this. Very good, Aubrey. Melody's got this. Let's go with Bree. How do we find the boundaries? How do we find the lower boundary? Subtract 0.5 from the first limit. And then how do we find the upper boundary? Add 0.5 to the upper limit. That is correct. Fill that in, please. Okay. Oh, yeah. I'll change it. Okay. Yeah. No worries. And guys, on the last number here, what was the highest value that we had? 134. And notice, what did I write down here? Yeah, so I did that to see if you guys were paying attention, which some of you were. So change that to 134, and this last upper limit should be 134.5. 34.5. All right, let's see. So far, where are we at? Step 1, find the range. Do we know how to find the range? Yes, the greatest value minus the smallest value. Step 2, how do we find the width, Sammy? Oh, divide the range by the class, number of classes. Okay. And then step 3, we fill out the class limits. We start with the smallest value and then go up the next class with the width all the way through for the number of classes that we need. And then the upper values, we know how to fill that in. And class boundaries, subtract half to the lower limit, add half to the upper limit. Next, I want you to write the word tallies. Tallies. And last but not least, you're going to write or just put in the symbol F. Tell your neighbor what F stands for. Frequency. All right, here we go. So for tallies, we're going to start right now with start with the class 1. Look up from 100 to 104. 100 to 104. So let's go column by column. Is there any numbers 100 by 104? No. How about here? 1. How about here? No. Here? No. Two. So you do 2 tallies and you translate that into a number. Next, from 105 to 109. 105 to 109. Let's go with the first column. 1, 2. I'm just going to X on these. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's my next frequency. Focus, please. 110 to 114. Let's see. 110 to 114. I'm going to change colors to keep organized. 110 to 114. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. 18. Next one, 115 to 119. We got, I'm going to change colors to blue on that one. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 so far. 7, 8, 9, 10. 11, 12, 13. 13. I'm going to go back to red. 120 to 124. 120, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's go to 125 to 129. 125 to 129. We got 1. 1. And from 129 to, 130 to 134, 1. Is it just 1? Now, question. What should the total of the frequencies be? Tell your neighbor. 50. Let's see. This plus this is 10. This is 20, so that's 30. 48, 49, 50. That is correct. So once again, tell your neighbor the name of this that we just built. What is that called? Frequency. Label it, please, so you won't forget. Distribution. Frequency distribution. We no longer say table. Frequency distribution. From 1 to 5, how comfortable are you with this? 5 4s, 5 4s. Tonight you're going to do 2 of them by yourself. Bah is right. All right, so I'm going to stop right there. Those of you following on YouTube, make sure you put some work in. You have the code to log in and get that from the Nearpod code. See you guys next time. Peace.